Hey folks, I'm Anchor, and I hope your day is treating you well so far. This has been in the works for a while, huh? I've been doing so much work in the background. He is, for my purposes, done because I'm sick of looking at this rig. Um, but there have been a lot of updates on everything, as you can see, with how this node view has grown. But one of the big things that changed from the last video that I made, was there was this lovely person in the comments called Ermine Studios that gave me some suggestions on how to set up the cutter nodes in a different way so I wasn't stacking them on top of each other and instead running all of those through into a composite that goes into a singular cutter that then goes into the main composite down here. And that made my life so much easier, so big thank you to them. Yeah, and just as a I guess reminder that this isn't like a super crazy tutorial series. I'm very new to puppet rigging, and there's a lot of cool tidbits of knowledge that pop up in my comment sections. So yeah, and if anyone else has any tips that they'd like to share, or things that I miss, or things that I get wrong in these videos where they could be improved upon, feel free to drop them down in the comment section or send me something and I'll try and address it, because I think it's just cool to learn alongside you guys, and just kind of show the process of what I'm doing. So yeah. Some of the main things that I'm going to be talking about in this video specifically on what I did was, vectoring the head, because that was a huge thing, and also showing off the deformers that I put on this rig. So if I click this little button up here, show selected deformers, actually no, I'm being silly, Puppet Master, there we go. Yeah, it looks crazy, but trust, it's very useful and helpful, and this button turns it off, but I'll be going into more detail about that later in the video. But basically what the deformers do, I think I briefly showed it in a previous portion, I think, was just that these points can manipulate individual pieces of artwork. So when you're animating, you can get some really cool follow through and make the shapes feel more traditional. Because yeah, that's one of the big points of puppet rigging, is even though it is all these parts put together, we're trying to get it as close to looking traditional as possible. At least that's my goal. Other things that I did were create all of these master pegs. So from the pegs on these individual artworks, they kind of go up in a hierarchy as needed. That's actually an extra one. Glad I caught that. Oh, that's gonna mess everything up, isn't it? Yeah, it is. You know what? I'm not gonna bother with that. That's staying there. I'll fix it later. Anyway, if I go up on this hierarchy and grab specific things, I can move big, like, portions of the rig together, which makes it so much easier to animate. But it's also a little bit of a pain in the ass, because you have to then move all of the pivots in a specific way, and I'll show how I did that a little bit too, because it gets a little bit tedious, but it's very doable. And if anyone knows how to do it in a easier fashion, I will definitely take the suggestions. Yeah, so master pegs, what else did I do? Let's see. Right, the handles. So alongside master pegs, I went ahead and created handles for all of them. I feel like this can probably be organized in a better way, but essentially what these handles are just easier ways to move the pivot. So instead of having to go into my node view and go and find the specific one that I want to grab, I can just go down either into my handles and find it, or even easier, find what handle I want to use in my viewport here. So like, say I want to move this whole body, I have this drawing connected to this whole upper torso area, so then I can just move it like this and not have to worry about it. Because with a lot of rigs, it's easy to go up and down on hierarchies with, I think it's Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so B and Shift B kind of goes down hierarchies, but because of the way I have the fur masked into this and connected in the pivots, it makes going up and down the hierarchies kind of a pain. That's probably my bad, but I just found an easier way to remedy that problem is to put handles on things, and then I can just move the individual pieces in kind of a fun way. Yeah. That just makes it easier. Yeah, and what's cool about these is that they don't render through into the actual animation that would be exported. And the way that you do that, I'll also show, but it's with these little visibility nodes. What else? I think that's it for the main things that changed and have been added. Also have a little bit of like a library situation with certain aspects, like the eyes. They have a blink now. I gave him teeth. I gave him teeth, and I think, yeah, that's it. He also has a mouth, but it doesn't have a library of shapes yet, just because I don't really think he needs them. So he's got this big stupid grin, and a little smile. But I thought that might just be fun to have. I don't know if I'm ever really going to use it, just because I already have his teeth the way they are. I'm really excited because now I can have him like growling and showing some gums there, so that's pretty fun. Yeah, I'm just gonna go into the time lapses, I guess, of how I did some of this stuff. Unfortunately, I'm so frustrated about this. The time lapse for vectoring the head got crunched in a really weird way. I thought it was rendering out at 1920 by 1080, but it was not. And the footage that I was managed to recover was at a very low resolution. So unfortunately, some of the bits of this video are going to be kind of crunchy, but it only lasts for like 2 segments, and then everything else that I do is normal. So yeah. And what else? One more thing. Oh yeah, I'm not doing master controls on this rig. Just the way that I did it, I'm realizing I just can't figure it out. I think there's going to be a section of time lapse where I can show that. I'll probably just show it here, where I was trying to figure out a way to interpolate the head for the different views, and I think because I'm using the same artwork for most of the views, that the flip information makes it confused, makes the program confused, so that it doesn't want to interpolate the keyframes the way that I want them to. So if I were to do it again, I would just separate each drawing substitution into its own thing, so it like did the right thing. I don't know, whatever. This is my second rig. I'm not gonna kick myself too hard for not knowing that. Yeah, and I think I'm gonna make this a different video, but I'm gonna show the animation tests that I've done with this, because I've already done a little bit of post testing, and I was messing around with a walk cycle, so I think it'd be really cool to show you guys the process of actually animating this guy, because I do plan on using him for a project for school, hopefully in the fall. We'll see how that turns out. But yeah, okay, enough with me yapping. I'm gonna go into the next part and show you how I actually accomplished this. That I had the head vectored, I can talk a little bit about how I went about making the deformers. I put deformers on everything just because it feels necessary to get the kind of animation that I want. But the way that I do that is, if I can get an example, like this hair piece here. The way that we make deformers, if I can go to that piece right there, this is the node that gets attached underneath the pivot that makes the deformer. So if I were to just delete this, boop, what I can do is, you'll see if I try and click this button, wrong thing, goodness. If I try and click this and click the button to show it, nothing shows up because I haven't made one yet. And the way that we make one is to go into this little hammer tool thing. You'll see it's gonna kind of break some stuff just because of how I made my rig, but there's a few different options of kinds of deformers that we can have. So we can have a curve deformer, which the way curve deformers work are you create like a root point and then another point that's going to be like essentially the spine or bone of it. And then you can manipulate these things. Also, if you ever click out of this and you go into here, you can go back into the deformer editor by clicking the hammer button again and then moving these around. So with these in particular, it's going to break this a little bit just because it's not made for that kind of deformer. But with things such as his neck, that's what I put in his neck to make that kind of bend. But for this, what I'm going to want to use is an envelope deformer. And this is an envelope deformer. One way that you can do it is to individually place, it's also going to make, individually place your points and then edit them as you go. But I find that version very tedious to do. So the other thing that you can do is just go up into your animation tab and go down to envelope creator, create envelope, and it'll bring up this little window. I hope this is showing up in my thing. No, it's not. There we go. Oops, window mode in OBS. So here we have the deformation points. That's the amount of points that are going to be on this, and I don't super understand the rest of these. It just alters the way that the points are placed on your vectored line art. So just keep that in mind when you're adjusting these settings. You kind of just have to mess with it to see what fits your thing best. But depending on the artwork, I changed the amount of deformation points. Let's just say 15 for this one. And when I click create, well, gotta have the drawing selected as well. Click create envelope and it will kind of automatically do it for you. And there will be some areas where it's kind of messed up. That's when you really just have to go in manually and start moving things around. Yeah, sometimes the points get a little bit screwed up, but that's when, yeah, just adjusting all of these handles to better fit whatever you're trying to make. Yeah, and then when you click that, that's not very good, but for the sake of showing, this is how it'll end up working with your line art. And there are limitations to this. If you bend anything in too extremely, the color art sometimes tends to pop through. I'm not really sure how to fix this. I know there are some ways to do it with like weighted deformers, but I know that those are pretty heavy on the program, so it's not suggested to use them very often. So really I'm just trying to get away with a lot of things and try and optimize the points themselves to better suit my animation. But yeah, that's how you create deformers. explain how I did the master peg hierarchies. Um, Really, the thing that is the most frustrating and tedious is fixing the pivots, like I said. So I set up one of these feet as an example, so I kind of disconnected some stuff to show you. So we have the paw still rotating around this thing, because I have it set up with that. But say I want to take the ankle and the paw and feed it up into a new peg and have this peg control both of them, right? By default, the pivot point is going to be in the center or around the center of the canvas. And what happens if you take the normal like pivot mover and move it to the center of this artwork and try and go to the next frame, you'll see it doesn't move along with the art that you're making. It stays just where it's been translated to across all frames. So we don't want to do that. We want to put that back where it was. Instead, what you have to do for all the views is go to the immediate ones that are connected to it. So for this, it would be the ankle and the foot, right? So then I take both of these and I move it up to where I roughly think it is, and then I'll just have to keep going back and forth and checking to see if the pivot is where it needs to be. And that's where it gets a little bit tedious because you have to do this for all the views of your rig. So then you can take that, pull it down, have that set there, and then you're doing that for all of the other views as well. So I'd be taking these two here, down there, and then things move when you do this, so just be aware of that. But yeah, grabbing those two, bringing it up, finding the peg, the pivot, excuse me, to roughly where the thing is, and then moving it back into place. And then it's fixed. And then you just keep doing that for all of the adjoining master pegs that you create. Yeah, so that's what I did for all of these. This was just set up as an example. This is not how I usually have it set. If I go back, this is how I have that set up. Translated through all the views correctly, and as I go up through the hierarchy, I go from the ankle to the ankle, and so forth. Yeah, so that's how you fix all of your master pegs. Thing I can show for right now is how I did these handles. So the way I did the handles was making new drawings for each handle that I wanted to make, and then I connected these to whatever pivot I wanted to use for it. So here we have the paw near handle that connects up into the paw master peg that is connected to both the front paw and the lines of the toes. And what I did from there was just take my ellipse tool and create a shape, and I actually have a specific palette for my controller colors, and to make them a lower opacity I just double click and lower the alpha on it. And then I just went ahead and made new instances of it, substitutions for each view, so I could move it around into different places. And yeah, that's how I did that. And to make it not render through in the render view, what you do is you enter in your node view, type in visibility, it'll come up with this node, and once you attach it underneath whatever drawing you have and click into the settings, and it'll come up with the properties, and you'll have this, you'll just click soft render disable, click out of it, and then with the property saved on this, you can just copy paste it for every handle that you want. Yeah, that's really all I did for. Yeah, and that's really it. So, as a little closing out thing, I wanted to show just a little test that I did of this was a little bit before I had some things finished up, so some of this is outdated as you can see. And like with the mouth, none of the head has hand. It was a little bit annoying to deal with. I was very anxious to just try and see if it would even work. The teeth aren't, the tongue isn't in there. I can get rid of that easily. And there's just some aspects that I fixed, like being able to grab. I put a master peg in there to grab this whole section of fur instead of having to click the whole neck area. But yeah, this is a little taste of what I was doing. Very janky, but the idea is there. Something that I always do now, something that I was taught, is to always do rough traditional animation on first. Because this is what's going to actually make it feel traditional. Because the whole point of puppet rigging is to just skip the cleanup process. So if you just go in and start posing your puppet without having this traditional foundation, it's going to feel super stiff and not how you want it. So having these good traditional animation foundations works wonders for actually having this look the way you want it to. And again, this is super janky, but I did it in like an hour at 1 in the morning because I needed to get it out of my system. So I'm definitely going to be doing a proper pass of this, probably with some updated traditional animation too, because I think I did kind of skip some things. Like I didn't check a lot of the arcs to make sure that they weren't bouncing around. I think some weight could be a little bit nicer here. But yeah, this is kind of what we're going towards. But yeah, I wanted to thank you all again for following me on this journey. It's been really cool. And I really want to make more stuff. Especially because, even though college is super busy, I kind of want to really focus on YouTube and see where it can take me because I've been really enjoying doing stuff for it. So, yeah. And you know the drill. Scram, go take care of yourself, drink some water, eat some food, get some sleep. I'm gonna get some sleep. Yeah. See you guys.